Welcome to another episode of the Strength Log. My name is Philip Willenstam. I'm a certified nutrition coach and a co-founder of Strength Log.
And I am Daniel Richter, CEO of Strength Log and a certified personal trainer. And I like big volumes, and I cannot lie.
You and me both.
Yeah.
I know that you're in a really positive momentum going with your training. While I have a super positive momentum going with my cardio.
Yeah. But that's good.
My strength training is severely lacking. I mean, I go to the gym, but I just go through the motions. I go 4 times per week. I make sure to train most of my body. Can't really say I care much about my abs. Never have. As I always say, when you have a big belly like I do, abs is just a waste of time.
Exactly.
I've been a fan of training volume my whole training career. I think it's one of the keys to long-term success. If you're not on steroids, which neither you or I have ever been. And the periods in my life where I've gotten the most training volume in, quality volume I should add, that's when I've seen my best results. And today we have a study on the topic.
Yeah, it's a bit of a treat. And I just want to say that I agree. I tried remembering before this episode my best training periods. And it seems like volume is the common denominator of those. Doesn't really matter if it's high reps, low reps, or heavy or light weights, or accessory exercises. Just doing more volume seems to be the driver for me as well.
And when I think about it, it's always like, why wouldn't it be? We know that elite athletes in almost any sport, they get more proficient in their sport when they train more. They need to train more. Long distance runners, ping pong players, track and field athletes. I train 2 times per week, and I'm a gold medal winner at the Olympics. It's a sentence we haven't heard in 100 years plus.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it work for strength as well?
But we do have the annoying fact that particularly for strength, we don't really see that clear of a relationship with training volume when we look at reviews. And we're going to have a bit of that today.
Yeah, we're going to debate.
Yeah. But first, let's go over what has happened in the research world with this new study. Maybe it's still in preprint. I'm not sure. It's a digital age. We don't wait for prints.
It was 65 pages, man.
Yeah. This was a group of like big names in the fitness sphere online. Big names in exercise science, and coming out of Florida. Florida men have conducted a study. Arrested by police. Or what is that thing? Florida man. That's a meme.
Yeah, it's just a search for Florida man, and you'll get so many headlines from so many newspapers about funny stuff that Florida man has done.
Yeah. Now I have some Florida men, and as you mentioned, 65 pages, and I gotta say, a lot of it went swoosh over my head. My brain isn't as big as these gentlemen's, but let's get into what we did take away from it. So the gist of this was twofold, I suppose. But what they did was they had 16 recreationally trained participants. I believe they had lifted at least for 2 years for at least twice a week, who were gonna perform leg press training for 11 weeks, then with a break, and then another 11 weeks. And one of their legs was going to do 8 sets of leg press per week, and the other was going to do 16 sets of leg press per week. So that's the basic gist of it. And we're going to randomize which leg was going to do which. And then that break was 6 to 8 weeks long. They adapted it to the participants' schedule and convenience, where they just returned to their habitual training. Then the participants came back and they did a new randomization to see which leg was going to do 8 or versus 16 sets of leg presses.
Yeah.
And they measured the quadriceps cross-sectional area, so the muscle area of the quadriceps is specifically in the vastus lateralis, and their leg press 1 rep max to see which was better, really, 8 or 16 sets per week. And what you should note here is that they randomized the which leg was going to do which both times. So it wasn't as you might presume that, okay, so if the right leg does the 8 set condition for the first 11 weeks, then it's going to do the 16 set condition next week. But they randomized both times, which, well, this design to begin with makes sure that every participant is its own control, to use like study terms, that they have the same genetics, the same training history, the same sleep and diet. So a lot of things are controlled within the individual. But now when they randomize again, they actually also get kind of a replication study within the study of itself. And replication is a very important part of science that doesn't always happen as much as it should.
As much as we would like to see it happen.
Yeah, but now, I mean, for some of the participants, who they repeated the same like comparison 2 times. So right leg doing 8 sets, left leg doing 16 sets, and then doing that again to see, well, do we still get the same results? So that's a bit cool. So that was like the two prongs of this study. One, just to see which is better, high or low volume, and the other to see how much of the variance we see in training study results are because of the individual and his or her genetics and circumstances, and how much is from simply the intervention itself, the training program. So that's cool. So yeah, as mentioned, let's go over the training then. 16 participants, it was like 11 men and 5 women, I think. They had a couple of years of training experience. Trained one-sided leg presses, so with one leg at a time, twice per week. One of the limbs did the low training volume protocol, in which they averaged or mostly did 8 sets per week. And the other limb performed high volume training, which was an average of 16 sets per week. They rested 3 minutes for 3 minutes between each set, and all sets of one leg were completed before moving on to the next leg. So I calculated those are 24 sets with 3 minutes of rest. And say 1 minute of performing the exercise. So we have like 90 minutes of one-legged leg pressing per session. Very exciting. Everything's
Good for them.
supervised. So I mean, this requires a lot from the researchers of just being in the gym and telling someone to push.
Keep pushing, man.
And the limb that was trained first in every session was alternated every session. So
that's also good.
Yeah. And they did around 10 reps per set, aiming to have 2 reps in reserve, meaning that if they would have pushed to failure, they would have been able to do around 2 reps more. So, just to recap, randomize 1 leg with high volume, 1 with low volume for 11 weeks, then a 2-month washout where they returned to their habitual training, then they came back and randomized again to high or low volume for another 11 weeks. And then before and after each 11-week period, they tested the strength and measured the muscle size of the quadriceps. So that's the program that they followed, the method used.
Really cool study design.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I just feel bad for the participants that got the same leg twice for high versus low volume.
Yeah, but
meaning almost half a year of twice the training volume for one leg.
Yeah, but if they're lucky, they got their weaker and smaller leg, because most people have one that is slightly stronger and bigger.
Absolutely.
So maybe that could bring it up.
That would be good for me. I'm stronger on my right side because I'm right-handed, right dominant. Except for my left leg is stronger than my right leg because I had a knee reconstruction on my right leg, and I lost a lot of muscle mass, and I've since then always been stronger in my left leg, which is kind of weird for me.
But I have another hypothesis, because I'm right-handed and right-footed, but my left leg has always been stronger and slightly bigger on the thigh. And I think that's because it's the support leg. You stand on that when you are doing things with the right leg, like kicking or something.
Counter argument. I know that my right leg was had a more centimeters around it before the operation.
Ah, damn it.
Before the surgery.
All right. Let's get on to the results. Which was better and how was this variance of the results? So if we begin looking at muscle growth, they gain muscle from both 8 and 16 sets per week, but significantly more during the 16 sets per week training.
Like a lot more.
Yeah, like 30 to 35% more than the 8-set protocol. And sure, that's a doubling of the training volume to get like a third more growth. But I couldn't find the absolute numbers for the 8-set group. Yes, that this was 30 to 35% more. But we already know that 8 sets per week, you get a pretty good muscle growth from that. So getting an additional third on top of that is bound to be some pretty nice gains. Say that they gained 10% of muscle area from 11 weeks of 8 sets per week, and now they gain like 13 to 14% from this.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. So better
does.
for muscle growth. And and this is taken together, like all of the conditions, depending on if they did it twice in a row or however the randomization went. It was a consistent gain from the 16 sets per week. Now for strength gains, you and I are disappointed. They were similar. They gained around 30 kilos in their leg press 1RMs for each 11-week cycle, but the difference between 8 and 16 sets per week were minimal and far from a statistical significance. If the 16 sets per week group gained like 34 kilos, the 8-set group gained like 32 kilos. Very disappointing.
I'm not angry, just disappointed.
Same here.
No,
I'm a little bit angry.
we see this time and time again. And
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect anymore. Now, a one-legged leg press is not the most skilled lift in the gym. And since you're an active power lifter, I'm an ex-power lifter. We know that training a more highly skilled lift more often, maybe it's more important to train it often than the total training volume spread out over a week, but we tend to see better results, both you and I, and a lot of other people, when we go from like bench pressing once per week, doing 10 or even 15 sets and spreading that out, also increasing the training volume to 3 or 4 times per week. The only time I've seen really good bench press gains in my training career, except for when I was a beginner, was when I jacked up my training to 5 times per week and did like 60 working sets per week. But still, the gains were small, percentage-wise, but they were there and they were real to me.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of it because, as you mentioned, we see this type of results for strength specifically in a lot of studies, that it seems a small amount of training seems to go a real long way for strength gains. But what's weird is that we know from other studies that after just a couple of weeks, most strength gains are no longer from neuromuscular changes, but rather from changes in muscle mass. But now we have a study that is, it's 22 weeks in total.
Yeah.
And we saw that the 16-set group gained 35% more muscle area during the training, but still that didn't translate in a significant difference in strength. I don't really get it. There is some puzzle pieces missing here.
Yeah. The researchers didn't scream enough at them.
No, I don't mean in the study design.
No.
I mean in our understanding of it. Because I don't get it. Because, skill and neuromuscular efficiency and technique are huge parts of this. And there is one confounder in this study design, or a limitation, or however you want to put it. We've talked about several studies that has this design recently, where one limb does one training program and the other limb does another. And for investigating muscle growth, I think this is a great study design. But for strength gains, it isn't as good, because we have something called the crossover effect, meaning that things you do with one arm affects the other arm. So if you train If you strength train only one arm, the untrained arm is gonna get stronger. It won't grow any muscle. At least I think there's like this tiny bit of evidence that it might grow some muscle, but pretty much it won't grow any muscle. But it will get significantly stronger just from the neural efficiency and your brain knowing like the movement maps and how to recruit the muscles in it. So in this case, the leg that does twice the amount of training, the leg that does 8 sets is going to benefit from the 16 set leg because that training crosses over to the other leg as well. It learns similar things and how to tense the muscles and coordinate the muscles in the body. So that is a drawback of the study design when we're looking at strength. But then once again, it's not like we don't see this type of relationship with strength otherwise as well. It wasn't too long ago we talked about a huge review study that saw just a few sets per week capped out the strength gains. And I don't like it. Something's wrong with the body.
It's just weird to me. I mean, yeah, if you build a lot more mass, especially if we're talking at a time horizon of years, you should really see a much stronger person in the end.
Yeah.
Compared to not building that mass.
I think so too.
And I'm gonna die on that hill.
Yep. But no, so an interesting study, definitely. And another piece of evidence that if you want to build big muscles, yeah, you need to do plenty of training. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the more is better always, but we have like this pretty sure line that 10 hard sets for a muscle every week, that is, I would say like for 98% of people, it's going to be better to be above that line. And then if we look at maybe the next line at, I don't know, 15 to 20 sets, then we're probably going to have like a lower number of people for which that is optimal or significantly better than doing 10 sets. But in this study, I forgot to mention that every participant saw either similar or better muscle growth from 16 sets per week. No participant saw better gains from doing 8 sets than 16. Yeah. And the ones that saw similar was just a few. So almost everyone benefited from 16 sets per week. So that's cool.
And especially when we're talking about trained subjects, I would say it becomes more and more important, but it's almost the reverse. If you're completely new to the gym, you don't need to aim for 15 to 20 sets per muscle group per week.
That would probably be negative.
Yeah, that would set you back. That would slow your beginner gains down.
Yeah, that number of 10 sets per muscle a week, that is based on a review of mostly beginner studies, but still 10 hard sets, I don't think you should do that in your first few weeks, but maybe like a month in or something, that would be fine. Yeah. Your first few weeks, you only need a tiny amount of training, and you need to build up your tolerance to it.
Absolutely. And then you also need to, I know that a lot of beginners, they don't think about when doing two quite similar movements that they might train the same muscle groups as well. If you're doing both squats and deadlifts, you're going to have a big overlap that you need to consider when thinking about your weekly volume, if you're thinking about it at all. Just follow a beginner program.
Yeah.
We have several of those for free in our free app, Strength Log. Check those out.
And so on the topic of increasing your volume, so one way to do it is, and perhaps the most obvious one, is that you begin with some given level of sets per week that are all fairly hard. Those are the sets that are most efficient for muscle growth. And then you maybe add a set or two every week. Another approach, which is what I kind of unintentionally started doing 2 months ago is to begin with fairly many sets, but have them be really easy and light, and then instead keep the number of sets fairly similar, but you increase the difficulty of those sets. So you increase the weights and the reps slowly. So both are gonna be like a progressive overload, but in slightly different ways. And that's what I've been up to now for, well, almost, I think today is gonna be day 50, almost in a row. There are a few breaks in between, where it started with me being sick for 2 weeks with no training, and I was so tired of my bed, and I just longed for fresh air and movement and exercise. So I started like a very light, full body daily training regime. And the great thing about doing something every day is that pretty soon it gets really easy to keep doing it every day. You just have your routine which you follow, so it's almost harder to break it than not do it. So I've kept going with that, and I'm slowly approaching fairly heavy weights for some of my sets, but since I'm enjoying it, I don't want to get hurt and have to stop doing it, so I'm taking it really slow. But I'm doing, it's been 5 exercises now that I've been doing every day, which is the barbell squat, barbell bench press, barbell row, deadlift, and pull-ups. And with a varied number of sets and reps in them, and a varied intensity, meaning how close to failure I am. But yeah, I started to sense that it might lead to some nice results. And now I'm mostly doing it for curiosity's sake, to see what is going to happen.
How long is a typical workout for you when you're following this?
Started out being around 25-30 minutes. At that point, I only did 2 sets of each exercise, 2 sets of 5. That is, I think I mentioned it earlier, there's a program called Easy Strength. Not in our app yet, maybe we should add it, where you do that and you're supposed to be really far away from failure. But then I gradually started adding sets and increasing the weights in some of the exercises. So now I'm clocking in at 60 minutes when I'm doing it. And I don't really want to go much longer than that currently. It gets messy scheduling wise.
Yeah, and you have the benefit of having your gym in your garage as well.
Yeah.
This would be much harder if you had to drive for 30 minutes to the gym or something
Precisely.
like that.
I'm also starting to sense that after 60 minutes, my energy is starting to dip. So to go further, I think I might, I don't know, want to add some snacks in between, and it would further draw out the time. I don't know.
That's the power lifter in you speaking.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm enjoying it, and it's going to be fun to see where it goes. My main priority is still to get that 200 kilo squat, but then when I see, like, my normal pattern is that the squat doesn't really respond to anything I do. So then when I notice the other lifts responding to the training and starting to take off, that entices me to focus more on those instead. But I'm gonna try and keep the focus on the squat.
But you've been squatting quite hard for most of this year at least, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you need another stimulant, especially for the squat.
Maybe.
While when the deadlift has been on the back burner as it has for you for quite a long time now, maybe these types of sets are just what you need.
Yeah.
But you're building a strong suit of armor, I believe.
I think so too.
Doing this, making your body used to daily training.
Yeah, and that's like one of the biggest assets I feel like I'm building now, that it's such a good platform for more training later on.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most valuable things I'm taking from it, I think. But the trick or the danger lies in starting the routine. So like the first few couple of weeks are going to be the most delicate ones, where you need to be disciplined and not do too much. But if you get through that, then you suddenly have quite a nice tolerance for training, which is cool and useful. Not that it seems to matter for strength gains, but but it does for me. That's what's weird about the results.
One final objection there to the results.
Yeah.
Maybe in most of these studies we see similar programs followed, like half the volume for one limb and twice the volume for the other. And maybe the twice the volume is just too much for strength. Maybe they would have seen better strength result if they, instead of 8 sets for one limb, were doing 12 sets and then for 11 weeks and then 13 sets. Maybe they should have worked up to it slower.
Maybe. And also,
who knows?
Or a similar thought, maybe they are of a too high intensity. Maybe they could add more like low intensity sets where they are further away from failure. Like I always make the analogy with like running, where most athletes, they do a ton of very low intensity training. Maybe that would be something.
Yeah.
They could still use like fairly heavy weights, like use 80 or 85% of warm-up max, but just do tons of like 1s and 2s or whatever, and do hundreds of them.
Did you see that the Swede took a bronze medal at the World Championship in the 10,000 meters?
Yeah, was it you?
No, I'm not. I'm very, very dangerous in short distances.
Yeah.
No, but this has never happened before.
It's insane.
A fucking Swede.
Yeah.
Taking a medal at the World Championship in the 10,000 meters.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's insane. Congrats to him.
Yeah, really insane.
Yeah. I'm just a bit proud. I feel like I had a big part in his accomplishment.
Yeah, you've been a supporter of whatever his name is.
Can't even... Oh my God, now I feel bad. I don't even have my phone with me. I can't fake this. Can't look it up.
So, well, I know we'll be back next week. Maybe, if I recall correctly, we're going to talk about testosterone and weight loss and TRT in a little mixture. I'm looking forward to that. And we'll see if I'm still doing my daily lifting or if I've snapped my shit up by then.
And then in a couple of weeks, you're heading for vacation. I wonder how that's going to affect you.
Oh, damn. That's right.
You're going to be away for like a week.
Oh, so annoying. My streak.
Cancel the vacation.
Ah, crap. I'm not going to be able to sleep now. So, we'll see if we'll maybe add the Easy Strength program to the app. I think we might need to do so. In the meantime, we'll catch you next week.
Train hard, eat well, die anyway.